But we're not going to do it this.
Kelly, you ready?
I'm ready.
Board members, you ready?
Mr. Chair, before you start, I'd like to take a moment of your time.
No? No?
Uh-oh.
I have a proclamation to read. Mr. Bill Fonsworth.
Can I say no?
I've already started, sir. But before I begin, I'd like to take a moment and have a few words about Bill. I've known Bill for about... No, it's shot. I've known you for about 30 years. You were here as building inspector before I got here. And I relied on you a lot. When I first came here, Bill was the first one to come to my office and say, whatever you need me, just let me know. And I took him up on that word because I plagiarized some of his documents that he was drawing at ACON, and I used them for my own benefit.
We all plagiarized his documents.
Yeah, he was very creative on some of his stuff, so I used them. And I won't admit that in public, so I take it for what it is. Bill soon took a job as building commissioner for the town of Northborough, and his mark on that community is noteworthy. In all of that, he was urged to run for the Board of Appeals, which he sits here today, and ready to retire. And we all know the value of that. Bill has a lot of knowledge in the building construction industry. He also has a wealth of knowledge in 48 Mass General laws. And I know I relied a lot on Bill's expertise because he spent a lot of time going to training, which I did not. And he was always sending me updates and emails and so on and so forth. It was a little self-serving when Bill got on the board here because, like me, he was a building inspector and he knew what I was going through trying to maintain my office, and I knew I had an ally on this board with Bill sitting here. Again, like I said, he was a student of zoning, and he was very knowledgeable in all related codes. Being a building inspector, you touch a little bit upon, all the general laws that are out there, such as the health codes and building codes and so on and so forth. But most importantly, what I found out about Bill is that Bill was fair. I mean, he was nitpicky, but he was fair. And I learned long ago from a friend who once said, when he understood that I was taking a building inspector position, he says, there's two things you have to remember in life. He says, first and foremost, he says, it doesn't matter if you get the code right. He says, what matters is you treat everybody the same. And he said, they'll all respect you. And the second part, he says, as long as you, he says, never demand respect. He says, always earn it, which is what I think Bill did. Everything Bill did, he just did quietly, and he earned my respect at least. So I think the board here feels the same. Let's see, where am I? Nevertheless, we all know that there comes a time when we all have to retire, and Bill's taken that step. As a matter of fact, he's taken a couple steps. He's beating me to the punch at every turn. And understandably, it's his time to pull back and enjoy some of life. So it's with mixed emotion that I wish him good health in his retirement, along with his lovely wife and kids and grandkids, and may he someday make par on the golf course. So now I'm going to read this thing, Bill. It's very nice. Very nice. Town of Littleton, Massachusetts, Certificate of Recognition, William S. Fonsworth, Jr. In recognition of 17 years of service, the Board of Selectmen offers its sincere appreciation to William S. Fonsworth, Jr. for his dedication to the town of Littleton and its residents as a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals from 1998 to 2015. Signed, James Carr, Melissa Herbert, Paula Vella, Joe Knox, and Charles DeCoste.
Thank you.
Obviously, I got short straw, Bill, because I'm...
There was more than a few words, though, but thank you very much. And, yeah, I was a building inspector when Roland was hired. And though I thought Roland was a great choice for the job, I knew of some of the other candidates that were applying for the same job. And was pleased when Roland took it, and I've followed Roland's career ever since then. I've worked with him a lot, even after I retired a little bit. Always had the most respect for you as a building inspector and a zoning officer. So that's why, in this position, try to help tie your duties in your office with what this board does. And not to make your job easier, but make your job better. So, I'll still offer my services to you. If you ever have a question, you know you can always call.
I do.
May not always have the right answer, but somehow we get worked out.
Thank you.
All right, thank you again, and thank you to the Board of Selectmen. Right. All right, now being past the hour of 7:15, I open the meeting of Thursday, October 15th, 2015, the Zoning Board of Appeals. Administrative matters, we've already covered one of them. Accounts payable, I don't believe we have any. I think they're all set, correct? Correspondence, we have none.
Just that, the fall workshop schedule.
Okay, the fall workshop, and, with Shelley sent the email out to everybody, I tagged on to everybody is that I really believe that all board members should attend some of these, including planning board members, as well as, I know building inspectors do go to these programs, and they're very helpful and useful. Not only from the latest information that is out there through the state, but also too how other towns deal with very similar situations that we have and will be facing. So I encourage everybody to go to these seminars, and there's some very good ones in there.
Yeah, but you won't be here to drive me.
Drive yourself.
I appreciated you driving
We
me
did it down in
last time.
Randolph, and that was interesting. All right, we got a few minutes. Let's try to do minutes, and it dates back to, the first one was February 12th, 2015, 7 p.m. I don't know if any, I've gone through, and there's a couple things in here. First of all, it should be at 7:15, Chair Gould, open the meeting. All right, down to the next, under minutes review. It should indicate that Patrick Joyce, the fifth voting member, because John Cantino not at the meeting. On the very bottom of the page, and I
Yeah, I
don't
have
know.
something before the bottom.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the fourth sentence down, it says externally non-illuminated, and now a few lines further down it says externally lit. So which is it, non-illuminated or illuminated?
It was not illuminated, but it was lit by a external light.
Okay, so then the non-dash should be removed in the fourth sentence.
Well, it's got lights shining.
Well, I think the point is that it should be externally illuminated,
Right,
not non-illuminated.
yeah, because then four
I
sentences
see
down says
non-illuminated,
externally.
yeah,
Right,
okay.
right.
Yeah. So you might want to change externally lit to externally illuminated.
Yeah. All right, on the very bottom, last sentence is, William Fonsworth stated he is disappointed that the board had asked for a mock-up of the sign. I don't believe I was disappointed. I think it was, huh? Disappointed that they did not ask for a mock-up, or,
You had asked for the mock-up and they didn't do it.
Okay.
They just done the big piece of plywood
Okay.
without the tenant spaces or anything.
All right, so-
So you need a
so
phrase in
I
there,
was disappointed that the applicant did not do the mock-up.
as requested by the board.
Right.
And then you can go right back to so that they see that the lettering of the sign is visible.
All right. Okay, getting down to 7:55 PM, hearing case 847A, 20 Washington Drive. 1, 2, 3, the fourth sentence down. Actually, Chair Fonsworth stated the petitioner should be well aware of the criteria of the application because of previous applications.
And I have a couple comments here.
Also, Oh, then, it was noted on the application, both special permit and variance are checked. Okay?
Yeah, should we have a statement as to why Sherry stepped down?
No, she just said because she has a financial
Because-
interest in
Right,
the
that's
matter.
not stated here.
Does say that,
It does?
right above it.
Yeah, because.
Oh, okay, I was looking under.
Yep.
And secondly, this is picky, but should we say vice chair Farnsworth rather than chair?
I'll be acting chair
You were-
at that
Or
point.
acting chair, yeah.
Yes, you
Yep.
can just say chair.
All right, a few lines down. Where it starts with site plan larger than the proposed house plan as shown on the plans. And that is not the latest plan. So reads, Matt responded that the foundation shown on the site plan is larger than the proposed house as shown on the building plans, and that is not the latest plan, because that was a whole problem, that was, what we have in front of us was discrepancy information, and he said, well, we don't have the latest plan. All right, anybody, any other comments on that page before we go to the next page? Next page. Down to 8:25 PM hearing, 1 to 4th paragraph down where it starts William Farnsworth, second line. Harvey responded, the foundation doesn't require a variance, comma.
Yeah, I picked that up too.
Next to the last line in that same paragraph, roof overhang, comma, not a house, period. And then capital S for she, it does a separate sentence. Anyone with any other comments on that page?
Yeah, we always say, read the building inspector's comments. Should we list them in the minutes?
No.
No.
Because there's, otherwise, if somebody's, reading these, how would they know where to find the building inspector's comments?
Because they're in the file.
They are in the file, but on the
Yeah, same as
website?
the application information, we don't list all the information in this. And the this decision should indicate, the comments and the date. Yep. That's a good question. Last page, any comments? All right, so getting to this,
Do we want to accept them as amended?
I'm looking here a minute. All right, the voting members for this would be myself, Mr. Yates, Ms. Hollinger, Mr. Bell, and Mr. Stewart. All right? Motion to accept as amended?
I move we accept the minutes as amended for February 12th, 2015.
Second.
Alan, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that one's done. Let's see if we can do March. March 19th, 2015. All right, Chair Gould opened the meeting, yes, in that first paragraph, review the minutes of October 16th, not October 19th. And the line right below that, approve the October 16th minutes, 2014. Any other comments or questions or suggestions on the first page? On the second page, where it was moved by William Farnsworth to grant the variance for the sign on the horizontal, no greater than 9 feet high, add, please, not larger than 63 square feet, comma, external illumination, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anybody have anything else on the second page?
Yeah, it says Chair Gould appointed Mark Saucier as the 5th voting member. No, maybe I'm misreading it. I was thinking there should have been another one appointed there, but maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of, there were 4 present. Yeah,
There were
okay.
4 present.
Yeah.
Okay. Next page. chair finds was showed, not had, but showed an existing and proposed color-coded plan which indicated the existing nonconformities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anybody else, any other comments or changes for that page? Next page. Fourth paragraph down, Chair Gould stated that the property qualifies. Any comments on that page?
Yeah, the paragraph before, that second sentence, I found a little awkwardly worded.
Okay?
It is, Chair Gould stated that there are some issues as an in-law apartment. She must have functionally dependent at sale termination, as at sale terminates.
Yeah. She must have a functionally,
And special permit terminates that time of sale.
Oh, the in-law
You just need
permit.
an A in there.
The in-law
Must
permit
have
does
a
not
functionally
carry to another owner, basically. So it's terminated if the property is...
Terminate at sale, okay, something like that.
Okay.
any other comments? Suggestions? Motion to accept as amended?
I wasn't here, you want to let Mark,
Huh?
I wasn't here, you want to let Mark vote on these? I wasn't at that meeting.
Okay, will be myself, Jeff, Rod, Ellen, and Mark. Okay. Motion?
Okay, move we approve the March 19, 2015 minutes as amended.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ellen. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Now, I was not here for June or for the July, so I have no comments on them. And it would be Jeff, Cheryl, Mark, Patrick, and Rod.
Oh, and then I read through this, there's a couple
It-
of changes.
Right.
Yeah, you were chairing the Village on the Common.
You're looking at June 18th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but on the wellness center, wait a minute. Oh, I see, then there's, okay. So do you want to finish the, oh, no, don't.
Well, let me ask you, no, have you
Okay,
gone
so-
through these prior to now, or?
Yeah, I did, but they've gone back and forth. Do you want to put them off, or do you want to go ahead and do them? We're already way...
If you're ready to go through them, we'll go through them. If not, then-
These are long, but there's several changes. Let's put it off for now,
Okay.
because we've got two.
Okay. All right, then. It being at the hour or past 7:20, for opening the discussion for case 857A, Mary Lou Rosati and Dwight Long request for amendment to the decision to include approval of Town Code Sections 152-1, fence or structure may not be more than 25 feet from the outside edge of the apron of the pool at 363 King Street. Now, for the board, This is a discussion as to, I believe, how to deal with a request for the amendment to a previous written decision of a case that was heard last month. Right? 152-1 is under a different code than the zoning bylaw. That code puts the authority back to the Board of Appeals. As in any case or hearing, the procedure will be that, the applicant speaks. I'll look to town officials, also to board members, and then abutters, and then anyone else in the audience who wishes to be heard. To keep things in order, and just so that we have only one person speaking at a time, must be recognized by the chair to be heard. All right. Mary Lou? You're Suzanne?
Suzanne McDonough, landscape architect and representative for Mary Lou and Dwight Long. This is a copy of the original plan that we submitted for the movement. We ended up moving the wall in 2 feet, and we ended up, the pool stayed the same, we just decreased this by a foot each way, and it worked out okay. We juggled a few things, but it worked out okay.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I know. And this is the way the fence was originally drawn, and we didn't really understand, because it's a very unusual circumstance to have this 20-foot, 5-foot setback. We've never run across it, the contractor, me, whatever, anywhere, so we didn't even think that it was an issue for us to fence the entire backyard, being a fairly small backyard. This is the edge of the house, so that's one part of the enclosure, and all of the doors and egresses would be alarmed and have locks. And then here we would be doing a decorative picket-style fence, meeting pool code with gates, and also down here with an arbor in the middle as well. The perimeter pool fence would be a chain link fence with a mini mesh, so it's not climbable, meeting all the codes. But the fence is beyond the 25 feet. I mean, if you think of the edge of the pool here as 25 feet, 25 feet off of this, the edge of the spa, it's in the middle of the lawn. And that one of the ideas of making this more accessible for Mary Lou was to have it very accessible for her. So because it's a fairly small yard, we were hoping to be able to include the lawn in with the pool area. So it's the pool fence as shown on the original drawings has not changed, but we didn't realize that there was going to be an issue with it, so we didn't bring it up at that time. And we did talk a little bit about the fence, but it was more in keeping with how far off the wall.
Go ahead.
That's the explanation of what we're looking to do.
So this fence is the one we talked about being down at the bottom of the retaining
Yes.
wall, because the possibility of the retaining wall being climbable.
Right.
So this is the one that you moved to get inside a foot of the
Right.
property line.
Right.
Okay.
So from up here, you don't see that because it's below the wall, at least in this corner. You start to see it here, but there'll be planting in front of it.
Okay.
So to be clear, the regulation says that you cannot be more than 25 feet away,
Right.
and there are portions of this that are more than 25 feet away.
Right.
Okay, here's the situation. You can have a seat if you want.
Thank you.
All right, it's listed on here as a discussion. We already had a hearing last month with an application that was in, and the application was for 2 variances, which we discussed, had presentation on, discussed and voted on. A decision was written. Now comes before us a new issue. Again, this is listed as a discussion. All right? So the question is that in order to, it could be held as a variance request, new application, a new notice is sent out, a new publication. Or, now you could reopen the case and the discussion, which would have to be posted, which cannot be done tonight. All right? So that, I guess it goes back to the applicant.
Can I ask you a question, Bill?
Yes?
Couldn't we just treat this as a amendment to the variances that we granted?
Okay, that's what I'm saying, that we'd have to reopen the case, the hearing. It cannot be done tonight, because the way the variances and special permits cases come before us, there are notices, legal notices posted, and abutters are notified. If you want to reopen, if we were continuing, like we have 2 cases tonight, or continuances, continuations must be time and date specific. You can't just come in and say, oh, wait a minute, we want to make a change to a decision. There's already amendment to a decision. So it would have to be a legal notice, and it would have to be a butter notification, and it would have to be, to open up and say, okay, continue to date and time specific.
Where this is such a minor change, is there a way to get around the butter notification?
Not
and
under,
all of
not
that?
under, well,
Can we,
my understanding is, and, experience in the way the Chapter 48 is written, no, you can't just get around things.
no, I
Okay,
mean,
you
is there
have to follow.
a way to follow the rules and do this as just reopening and making a minor
In order,
change?
but to reorder, you would have to, to continue, you would have to be date, time specific. Roland, do you want, you're a zoning enforcement officer, do you want to,
I agree with much of what you're saying. I think the question here is, when you do reopen the case, and as minor as it may sound, you have to allow the abutters an opportunity to weigh in on this issue. And I don't think you discussed this fence, or you didn't even discuss this
the
general
distance?
law.
We didn't discuss the distance under that general.
Correct. This is a general law. In fact, if you had discussed the 2 variances that you had granted, plus the general law, and it was in the minutes of the meeting, would be fine. But since we haven't done that, we've only discussed 2 variances, you have to allow the public an opportunity to come back and listen to the general discussion about this particular law.
So right at the moment, you can proceed with construction, but you just can't put that fence all the way out where you want
course.
to put it. So this wouldn't hold you up per se. But it seems a shame, I mean, we didn't have a single abutter here for the last discussion that was, except for I think we had one that was very pro what they were doing.
But there
if I
might be
remember
somebody that
correctly.
doesn't like fences. and
Right.
they'll show up.
Hypothetically, it could have been somebody, if it was mentioned to be more than 25 feet away, could have had an issue with it or a comment or whatever else.
Yeah, and
But
this is a case we've heard before and certainly granted easily.
but it's a new issue.
I
Yeah.
understand.
And I understand, and I agree with what Roland said, if there was any discussion at the last hearing about, yes, there's no more than 25 feet, and there's this other bylaw and everything else, and whatever else, it could have been covered.
So you think we need to re-notify?
I think you have to re-notify, and more importantly, I think you have to remove this general law.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
It's,
When
We
we,
can't do that here.
No, you
No,
can't,
no,
but you can
but we
petition
can, right.
the town to do
Yeah.
it
Well-
at town meeting.
It is, as you say, peculiar, and it's the result of something that happened 30 or 40 years ago.
A child drowned.
Yeah,
in the last couple of years,
Yeah.
little side note here, last couple of years, we've had 1 or 2 of these,
Right.
and it's been suggested each time that this is a crazy bylaw, it has no meaning and whatever else. And it should be changed, but no one has actually taken the action, or the planning board or anyone has not taken the action to do that. So unfortunately, here it is, once again, coming up.
At least it's a minor enough issue, you can go ahead with construction, and it's not going to hold you up and
Right.
run you into winter.
So can I ask, so if we close the one that we already met on, and then this would be a totally separate thing,
Yes,
okay, then that's the way we probably should go with this.
a new application
Yeah.
for a variance or whatever the
Yeah.
regulation says that.
I'm not sure what it is. It doesn't say special permit, it just says permission from the board.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you need to just submit for permission from the board.
We have to,
I'm not
even
even
for
sure if
revision,
that
You
needs to
just
be-
reopen it and I'll notify the butters of the
Or
next hearing.
don't reopen it, just read, under
It's
that,
a new one.
because it's not a zoning bylaw, do you have to do notification of abutters, and do you have to do,
yeah, where it's just permission, do we
Sherry
have
told me I
to?
didn't have to do any of that, and she
Well,
could just
But
come
is
in
it
and ask
easier
for this,
just to
so.
amend this at the next hearing, send out to the list of abutters that we're going to reopen this case?
Okay.
We're going to hear it and we're
so
going to
then
include
we'll
it?
do it as
Reopening.
reopening and everything else. All right, then
Since
I,
this was not part of the original petition and was not discussed, can we really reopen it versus having them resubmit?
I think it should be resubmitted, it makes it a lot cleaner, and, no, it takes out any kind of a question as to.
What is the difference? What, is there financial difference? Is there a timing difference? Is there a but notice difference?
Do we even write a decision? I mean, if we're not
You're
doing a
gonna give
variance or a special
You're going to give an
permit?
opinion,
You're gonna
because,
give an approval.
Right.
It doesn't say special
Yeah.
permit variance, or they're not
Yeah.
appealing anything, they just simply
just-
want
But
your
is this
okay.
something that is
Is-
filed with the?
It would be
with
a
the
statement,
Registry of
yeah.
Deeds?
Yes.
And- Okay.
if approved by the board, it would be a statement by the board, or whoever writes it, the clerk, would say that the board knows, here's the details, whatever else, took a vote to approve. Yep. So would you put that on the agenda for next month at 7:30? And you'll have the, you can
If we
be
make the-
rolling and have
Yeah,
it.
I'll make
So
it.
we're reopening for permission?
No, you
No,
just
it's a new one.
handling it as a handling it as a new item.
Okay, do they have to pay the fee again?
That's not
It
a
seems
plus.
like you should get a break on that.
Really does.
Yeah.
Can we waive it?
Maybe
Shelley,
just-
check and see
What is the fee?
under that particular regulation, if it is, what the differences are between handling a 40A case.
I'd like to make a motion that we don't charge them a fee on coming back for something like this.
I don't know, we have that legal advantage.
Your fee schedule is based on zoning 48.
Yeah.
We have no fee schedule for the general
Right,
bylaw.
right, so that's why I suggested Shelley check with,
So there may be no fee anyway, we don't have to waive it.
Yeah.
Okay,
all right, so that'll go to 7:30.
I get it.
And I think you can have
November.
confidence that you'll be able to do that. It's just that we have to do the
No,
paperwork.
I understand.
All right.
You have a condition.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, being and past the hour of 7:30, being at 7:47, more or less. We continue hearing of case 861A, Richard Cristiano, requested for a special permit pursuant to section 173-68, conversion of dwellings for a proposed conversion to a two-family dwelling at 40 Powers Road. And again, the same procedure will follow. Voting members will be myself, Jeff, Cheryl, Mark, and Rod. We were all in attendance at the last hearing. All right, this is a continuation where the applicant came in for a special permit to convert the dwelling to a two-family. And it was suggested that, or asked, would there be consideration rather than they have it as accessory dwelling special permit? Also to submit plans for the addition. No. Presenter?
Thank you again for listening to my request.
Thank you.
So we have supplied some information from the last meeting that shows you what the structure is going to look like, as well as a plot plan. So you can see where the property sits on the 4-acre piece of property. And I'm not sure if I made myself quite as clear as the last time. The reason that my wife and I are requesting that this be a two-family is because this is going to be a home for our son for the rest of his life. So our son is disabled, he'll be living with two developmentally disabled roommates and a caregiver in the existing structure. And what we're building is an attached structure my wife and I will live in. And my son is 26. And if all goes according to plan, he'll be here for the rest of his life. My wife and I are both in our 60s, and we hope to live here for many years to come, but we certainly won't outlive our son. And the question is, what happens in the long-term planning to the rest of the living quarters on the property when we're gone? Allowing us to have a two-family designation will open up opportunities for someone to either rent it, perhaps several people with developmental disabilities who might be able to live in a separate home, any of a number of things that could be pursued if it's in fact listed as a two-family. Accessory dwelling, for our tenure there, will suffice, but once we're gone, quite frankly. What happens to the structure that we're building? So, as far as the property is concerned, it's 4 acres. The existing structure is in the middle of the property. We're well off the road. The driveway itself coming in as well as 120 feet off the road. It sits in the center. It's not, I don't think, in the back, it's a wooded area owned by Mr. Pickett, I believe. Other than the distance from the back of the house to his property, everything else is at least 100 feet from the property line. So there's plenty of room. I think that the house, it's all going to be brand new except for the original structure from the 1940s, which we're going to clean up, of course. So it's certainly going to be what I think is a compliment to the neighborhood, nice addition to the neighborhood. And there'll only be a handful of people living in the entire property. I would request that you consider my application to make it.
Ms. Bernier?
I'm not sure what I can add to that unless the board has some questions. The information given is accurate, and I agree with the applicant. The house fits the definition of our bylaw, and he certainly qualifies to have a two-family.
Due to the age of the existing structure.
Exactly.
But it also says, I mean, I hear you, and having had a handicapped sister, I am quite sympathetic. However, I am worried about this particular bylaw and that it not be abused. The bylaw very clearly says that we may grant a special permit for alteration if, and it goes on to say, if it will be in harmony with and conform to the character and type of residence generally prevalent in the immediate neighborhood. That's all single-family homes over there. You are like the poster child for our in-law, dependent person ruling, even if your son, even when you're gone. If your son is living there, whoever will be in the other part of the house most likely will be a caregiver or someone equally dependent or someone involved in it. You're not going to be renting it out to a total stranger. So it doesn't, so the two-family, you have 4 acres. I keep wanting to say it's fine because you have 4 acres and because you're set off the road and because, I understand there are all kinds of reasons for this.
It's also, if I may add, if you don't mind, everything is being separated. We're having a separate septic system put in for the section where my wife and I live. All the utilities are going to be separated so that we can so that the utility costs for the house where my son, the 2 roommates, and the caregiver will live, all be independent of ours. Separate septic system, all being designed so that we can, the whole point of this is so my son and the roommates learn to live independently.
So you wouldn't just subdivide it into 2 buildings because you want them connected
They're going to be connected.
and you don't have enough frontage? Or yeah, you do. No, you don't. You don't have enough frontage to have 2 building lots.
Yeah, it's not 2 building lots, it's all.
So,
Go ahead, finish.
no, I want to hear Jeff's comments. I'd
I
like to
just,
come back.
what's the, it says 2.75 in the site, acres in the site plan, but we're referring to a 4-acre site. What is that referring to? I'm just looking at this site plan that's dated 2009.
I've always been told, and the purchase was made, that this is 4 acres.
Okay, maybe this additional, do you own on the other side of the barn?
No, the barn is on the property line, but I believe the section, if you're looking at it, the section in the top right actually extends over there, because there's a small basketball court already there, and there's a large shed is.
That's neither here nor there, but, so then the other thing that.
You haven't broken off a building lot, that's what I think he's asking.
No, I'm just asking why we're talking about a 4-acre site when this site plan says 2.75 acres. But, so then the architectural plans that are on here are for a further addition to this addition?
Correct, there's an existing 4-car garage, and the new addition will go on top of the existing 4-car foundation.
Okay, and so you and your wife are going to be in which part of it?
The structure that's going to be with the 4-car garage.
Okay, that's where you're going to be.
That's where my wife and I.
Okay. So Cheryl,
This gives me a headache. This is like building a an apartment building on top of a house,
What-
on top of a.
What our initial concern was is that while the bylaw allows for a conversion of an existing structure built before 1950,
1951, March 5th, 1951.
in this case, the structure will incorporate numerous additions onto the original structure. But we're given that latitude because it says if it does not interfere with the neighborhood or, you know.
It doesn't say interfere with.
Well-
It says
Shall
conform
be
with the
in harmony
character,
and conform to the character.
type of residence generally prevalent in the neighborhood.
Right.
That's, all of those are single-family, mostly
I
colonial.
don't think that the fact that they're single family has anything to do with it, because if it was an existing structure, it could be as of right subdivided into a two-family, just because that's the way it is. But
That's not what it says.
But that's the effect of what it says. But what we have to decide is whether the size of this and the location of it causes any issue with the neighborhood. And it is off the road, it's a house behind a house, it's on a large property. And, you know, I think we could easily find that it's not going to affect the neighborhood.
Jeff,
Well,
if you read 7368, it clearly says, it doesn't say they have an immediate right, it says we may grant.
We may grant.
Well, they tried pushing through a zoning for a change that would allow anyone to
You're right.
have any change, and that was turned down by the town very firmly.
Mhm.
It was not, the town did not do that. What we said is we may grant if it is in keeping with the neighborhood and conforms to the character and type of residence. I see your point. This is a big piece of land, it doesn't show from the road, you know, but I worry about setting precedents. I worry about when people say they have an absolute right, because they don't. The town
don't.
voted
You're
against
right.
that.
But
And so we're here with what seems like the poster child for our dependent care conversions and additions and things like that. But we have someone who's put more than tripling the size of the property and putting a 4-car garage and all kinds of, it's more than, it's a lot.
You're not tripling the size of the property, you're tripling the size of the building.
Excuse me, that's what I meant. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
Roland?
First of all, I think it is 4 acres. Our assessor's records has it nearly 4 acres.
Oh.
So there's something that we don't have
So
here.
he's
additionally.
missing a piece of it on
He's
this.
missing a
Yeah.
piece.
Okay.
That's the first thing. The second thing, and following up on what Mr. Yates says, and I agree with Cheryl, is that you have the right to deny it. Special permits are not automatic. I mean, that's law, and we understand that. But what Jeff has said has some importance, in that if the applicant had come before you with just the farmhouse, with nothing else, and said, I'd like to convert that into a two-family, would you be okay with that? Because you seem to be having a problem with the size, so I'm just proposing that as an
I
argument.
don't know. I have reservations about this, about willy-nilly imposing this
I
law,
understand.
especially after our town voted against just allowing anyone to do that at any time. And the wording of this is very careful, that we may, if it will be in harmony and conform with the character and type of residences. This may be an exception, and we may be able to say, gee, because it's tucked off the road, and gee, because it's on 4 acres, and gee, because, but it's not, I guess I have problems with, not only is he turning this into a two-family, but he's also quadrupling the size of the
I'd like to
building.
make my point, if I could.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so if you had the original farmhouse, you probably wouldn't have a problem with this,
I would think about it.
okay? The applicant could have come before you and said, I just want to convert the farmhouse, and you would have issued him probably the special permit for the conversion. The very next day, he could come and apply to me for the addition. Nothing stops him from putting an addition on in this town. He doesn't lose the grandfathering, and he doesn't lose the special permit.
Okay, but you're assuming that I would say it was fine to be a two-family.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying that I would.
No, I understand that, but I think the problem you're having is the size of this, is the scope.
Well, it's, I
But
almost,
what I'm trying to say is that shouldn't be a problem, because it's under the jurisdiction of, does the land support a larger structure? We have very large structures in this town. We have structures that equal the size of this one all over town, because the septic system allows it, not because we like it, big houses here and small houses here.
I know, I understand.
Okay, I do want to make a point that at the last meeting, we asked for plans, and we did receive the plans. All right, any other comments or questions from other board members? Rod?
I guess the thing we talked about last week was it's more than just
Last
a
meeting.
conversion, last meeting, more than just a conversion, it's actually, constructing a second unit. But then Roland has a good point, that we could grant a permit, and then they could add on, and we may not have any say as to how the configuration is after
Yeah,
that.
it was says alteration and conversion, and I believe we did have a discussion last month, that alteration could include addition.
Yeah, we just had trouble because of the size. But the lot is big enough, there's huge setbacks, 110 to 120 something feet. So that part of it, doesn't give me heartburn.
I'm thinking that I'm an example of what Roland said. I had a circa 1800 house. I applied years ago to have it converted to a two-family. Afterward, I've had several additions. I've added, separate buildings and this and that. And so that's the scenario that you're talking about. And those additions were just the building permit. So it becomes to, I don't think that this, if this was a neighborhood that had a pattern of development, like if it was a subdivision, or if it was an area that had smaller properties, or where this would definitely stand out, I probably would look more closely to the design. But it's not that kind of property. It's the kind of property like a lot of Littleton is, where houses are off to themselves and they sort of do what they want.
I hear what you're saying. I don't have a problem with your house per se being a two-family because it abuts the common area that allows the zoning, what's it called? Overlay area.
Village common.
Village common area, which has two families. You're a stone's throw away from my office building, that's an office building, and a two-family.
Well, it's not a two-family anymore. I converted it back.
Okay, but your location was very much one that was kind of cried to be able to do that kind of thing. I worry about, I hear what you're saying, and I'll go along, and I understand, and I'll agree with it, but I want to make a point that we need to be gentle with this bylaw.
That's why you come before a board like this.
Yeah, I want us.
It's not an automatic thing.
I want us to keep in mind that the town voted against making it a right for people to be able to do this, and that this bylaw was written very carefully
Well-
with the harmony to conform to the character and type of residence generally prevalent in the immediate neighborhood. So we want to pay attention to that, and I understand making a special permit here due to,
Well, to get to your point with the exact language, this is all general language that's throughout 40A and most legal documents, that may is used quite a bit. Also to the harmony with the neighborhood and everything else, that goes back to requirements under a special permit. So it's not in here specifically for this one thing, it's just reiterating that some of the conditions and situations for granting a special permit. All right, Mark, you have a question?
Yeah, a couple of questions and comments. One, I tend to agree a little bit with Cheryl in that I'm not clear what advantages a two-family structure gives them that an accessory dwelling doesn't. It seems like there's some kind of projecting into the future.
Roland, do you want to address that?
And the other one is, are we going to be opening up to abutters, and are there any abutters? Because they may bring up some points that we're not thinking of right now.
I will be asking the abutters when we get done
Okay.
with the board.
So I'd be interested to hear what,
Yeah.
if and what any of that would
But
say.
Yeah,
what would,
we can, Roland can,
Well, I guess if I had a crystal ball, I could tell you that answer. I can give you scenarios. Let's say, you're deceased, you and your wife are deceased, and the child is left alone, and you don't have a caregiver living in this second unit. All of a sudden, the child now can't afford to have this house, period. This child has to move. And in that case, then that special permit allowing him to have an in-law apartment disappears. He can't have an in-law apartment. If you give him an in-law apartment and he still lives there, he has to have somebody physically dependent on him, or vice versa, living in that second unit, and that may not occur. There's no guarantee that will occur, and probably won't occur.
So we're doing this to provide future income?
Well, you asked me to look in a crystal ball, and I gave you a crystal answer.
No, he's saying that if it was done as a accessory dwelling,
It would always have to be
At
a
the-
caretaker there, or,
well, the caretaker wouldn't be functionally dependent on
oh, it
the
doesn't
owner.
matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which
Oh,
side.
okay,
That,
okay.
that doesn't matter.
But also, I guess I'd point out, if you went the other, the accessory dwelling thing, the building would be the same.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be any difference in the appearance of the building.
Correct.
There, it would just, it's just, we're talking about a potential form of ownership, which is like any building that could be condoed or, whatever, so.
Well, it's just that if you have a two-bedroom, it stays that in perpetuity for as long as it stands. If that right or that function outlives the people that live there.
Right.
And that's my only concern is, are we, if we do go with the two-family approach, again, that sort of just keeps going after the present occupants are gone. And is that something we want to promote or not promote?
Something the town voted against.
No, they voted against it without going through a hearing like this. And I guess I go back to the size of the land. This is, it doesn't, with our acre zoning, it doesn't get around the density issue, because this is not any dense than any other part of town. Whereas, I have a half an acre, and I had a two-family on it.
Right.
So,
I think we've gone through.
Okay, yeah, no, I
can
mean, to be
answer
honest,
that.
I'm looking for reasons to say, to agree
Yeah.
with the applicant. I just want to, make sure I'm comfortable with that.
Any other questions, comment?
No, other than hearing the
Alan?
butters.
Yeah, I would support the applicant's
You have-
application here. I've been on the property in years past. It's got the kind of scale to it that I think this would fit perfectly well up there. It's not like it's, you've got tiny little paths or something like that. I mean, it really feels, it's a big property. And I think having an addition like that on there, the way it's set and the way it's private in a sense, I think would fit and I think would work.
Shelley was
Right,
trying to say
any-
something, Bill.
You want to,
Shelley's
I was just gonna say, according to the assessors, the
You can
houses
sound
on
it.
each side of it, on that side of the road, were all built in the early 50s too. The houses across the street are newer homes, but on that side
Yeah.
of Powers Road, they were all built in the 50s. so.
Okay. Any butters? Anybody in the audience who has a question or a comment in regards to this case? Okay. Do you have anything else you want to add or up or?
No, I think some great questions. Hopefully we've answered everything.
Any other questions or comments from the board? To close then? Motion to close?
I make a motion, we close the hearing.
Second?
And Rod. Okay, we will make a decision within the appropriate time allowed, which will be at the end of tonight. But you're in there. Am I?
Who's Alan?
No, it wasn't. I don't think so.
Oh, Mark.
No, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
All right, thank you.
you're
thank
welcome.
you.
Should I just take a minute?
Yeah.
Okay, being at, in past the hour 7:45, being at 8:10, or 8:12, whatever. The continued hearing, case number 859A, petition McKee Holding Incorporated request for a special permit variance pursuant to Section 173-31 intensity view schedule. Setbacks for a proposed retaining wall in connection with sewage disposal system at map U17, parcel 146, lots 1008 to 1010 Elm Road. This is a continuation. This case was first opened August. We continued, there were some issues with this that had not been before the Board of Health, and then it had a note from the building inspector that it wasn't even, he had not determined, or had a chance to determine if it was a legal lot to begin with for a building. It was continued to September, which there was a request to continue to this month because they were not ready to present. The stipulation also too was either have all your information to present or to withdraw. At this point, the board has received a letter from Westchester Company Incorporated, the Littleton Zoning Board of Appeals, reference parcel 167 Elm Road, map U17, dated October 14, 2015. Dear members of the board, we do hereby request that our application before this board be withdrawn without prejudice for the following reason. One, we would be unable to ascertain the necessary information within the specified time frames from this board to render the decision under the law. Two, additional expert testimony regarding the retaining wall presented a time conflict with our expert. We do expect to reapply at a later date when our informational package is complete. Respectfully requested, Stephen Marsh. Because the letter is requesting withdrawal without prejudice, the only action of this board, and you really don't need it, but we usually do as a formality, to accept the letter.
Can I ask you a point of order?
Yes, you can.
Do we have to allow it?
He has requested it. Yes, we basically do.
We have to allow him to
Yes.
withdraw without prejudice?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. And no, again, we've had a discussion previously in other similar
Did we have a
cases.
buzz here that we want to listen to? We can't.
Nope. And similar to this, and there's, some legal people will say it's automatic as soon as he requests it. But we have felt as a board that, no, we should at least take a motion and a second and a vote on accepting the letter.
I'd like to withdraw, let him withdraw with
So-
great prejudice.
Can I have
You can.
a question?
Yes, you can.
If they reapply, does it have to be advertised again?
Yes, this whole thing goes away.
Goes away,
It
and then
starts
you
a
start
brand new
again.
step
Okay,
one.
good, so people
Yeah.
will know about it.
Yes, it does. Okay, can I have a motion to accept the request to withdraw? Someone.
So moved.
Rod?
Second.
All in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All abstain? Done. Okay.
Reason, just out of curiosity.
Huh?
You abstain?
That makes that one easy. Okay, now we have, being at the hour and past, at 8:15 now. Discussion, again, case number 795B, which is 15 Great Road. Wildflower Meadows LLC, request for modification of a 40B comprehensive permit review change of unit style. And before,
Can I ask just a point of procedure?
yes,
Can this be considered also that it's maybe a non-substantive change, as opposed to approving actual floor?
this is not a discussion for whether it was a substantial change or not substantial change. They would come forward with for a discussion, because I guess there's a misunderstanding or whatever between the building inspector and the applicant for obtaining building permits. So the letter that was sent is dated October 8, 2015, to Cheryl Gould, Chair. Wildflower Village LLC needs additional floor plans approved by the zoning board for Wildflower Meadows and ask that they be added to the agenda for October 15, 2015. All right,
Good evening.
go ahead. Identify yourself for the
Sure.
record.
My name is Mark Gallagher. I'm the manager of Wildflower Village LLC, who is the builder and developer of Wildflower Meadows at 15 Great Road. As the board may remember, we appeared in front of you last fall. I think it was, last fall sometime. And we had discussed some changes to the site plan, which we requested that you implement at that point in time. You voted that they were inconsequential changes, and we also discussed at that point in time changing some of the floor plans because they were, our demographics were off a little bit. Some of the customers were, or I should say, customers were not purchasing certain floor plans that we had projected at the time of the permit that were going to be purchased. And the board left it open for us to come back at a later time when we solidified our plans for this and to bring back the new plans to you. So during that period of time, one of the things most recently that's come forward is some need for some clarity from the board on the existing permit. We are permitting units in Phase 2 which were on the original matrix that was provided as part of the decision. And I guess that there's some clarity that needs to be brought forward because the permit, and I sent the letter off to Cheryl prior to asking, Sherry to ask before we came here this evening. And if the board will recall, long time ago at this point, when it was initially approved, there was a matrix of plans that were provided. I think there were about 11 or 12 at that point in time.
Yeah, two of our experts.
Yep. And there was, I think, Jeff, you poured over the plans for many weeks.
Many plans.
Yes, our many plans, and also Alan. And at that time, before we began construction there was some studies done in terms of the ledge. And the board gave us the flexibility of having slab on grades if necessary because of the ledge, detached garages, attached garages, and in some instances, undercar garages. We went forward throughout the project now, and we've blasted everywhere. So we're providing full foundations for all 56 of the units that are on the property that we're going to be constructing. In doing so, every unit will either have an attached garage or it will have an undercar garage. When we came back to you the first time, or the only time that we came back, and it was an inconsequential change, we eliminated, if you remember, the bank of garages that were detached in Phase 1, and we opened up the loop and attached garages to all of those units, and you were kind enough to vote for us to be able to do that. All of Phase 1 is now sold. We've conveyed about 90% of the units, and we're now in Phase 2. And what we found in Phase 2 is through our blasting, we have a myriad of buildings that have undercar garages, more than we probably anticipated because of the ledge. And so we were exercising our ability to use some of the floor plans that were originally approved with undercar garages. And I guess the question came forward from the building inspector a couple of weeks ago, and I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, Roland, so that the matrix may not be clear, that we actually are able to use existing floor plans with undercar garages, attached garages, or no garages at all. So I forwarded that part of the decision to Sherry when the question first came up. And I guess this evening what we would like to do is to clarify that as a matter of record so that we can move forward and ascertain the building permits that are pending with existing floor plans previously approved with undercar garages as opposed to ones with attached garages. So just to be clear, there will be no change to the floor plan itself other than the fact that we would now be putting on some lots the garages underneath the house itself.
Okay,
have a question.
First of all, they got a procedural thing.
Sure.
The voting members, and I should have mentioned this before, when you get started, I wasn't going to interrupt. Myself, Jeff, Cheryl, Rod, and Alan would be the 5 voting members.
Okay.
All right. Cheryl, go ahead.
The garages that you're putting under, do any of them affect the affordable units?
I don't know, I don't want to try to sidestep the question, but I don't think I understand the question. As you remember, there were a certain number of units that were selected through the process. It's open to the applicants, if you will, of the affordable units to choose amongst the different styles that are available to them.
Didn't we limit and insist?
You did limit.
Which
There's only like 3 or 4.
plans?
There are 3 or 4 plans, the Rosebud, the Pesto, the Foxglove Cottage, and I believe in Phase 2, there's one more unit, Laughing Gemini Tiger, if I remember correctly.
Okay, I guess what I'm concerned about is the affordable units, we want to keep as accessible for people who may have handicaps, or not necessarily wheelchair bound, but maybe elderly or have handicaps, and a garage under would be harder for such a person than one that's attached. And correct me if I'm wrong, board members, but I thought we talked about attached garages to those units, and wanting to keep them attached as opposed to detached or under, and making sure they have garages, because originally they didn't. So I guess that's my concern, is
So,
I'm
let me
trying to
answer that.
address that issue.
Let me answer that for you. During the deliberation process, you selected the sites that the buildings go on. Through the process, you selected sites that have undercar garages for affordable units. You selected sites that have attached garages. I believe you selected on lot 27, or my memory is that you selected on lot 27 a specific home, which is the Rosebud with an attached garage, to meet not only affordability, but somebody who may come forward with accessibility issues. So lot 27 is a flat lot with an attached garage. That's one of the 8 that you chose. And I believe, if memory is correct, that you chose a Rosebud because that's, for our accessibility, master bed, exactly. So you did do that. On the other sites that you chose, there are some that have attached garages, and there are some that have undercar garages. So we have a mixture of both. So it doesn't change, in essence, it doesn't change the affordability units at all. What we're talking about really is the market rate units. You've already selected the units for the affordable buyers that they can choose from, the pool that they can choose from. And we allowed that in Phase 1. The permit allows for them to choose as long as it doesn't work against our construction schedule. So our intention is in Phase 2 is to allow them the pool, and we believe that will be consistent with what we have done. So we've already pulled the permit for lot 27, the unit that has for affordability and accessibility. It's already been granted by Roland, and that foundation is
So
scheduled to go in
you're
shortly.
basically telling us the accessible, the affordable units really aren't changing?
They're not. They don't at all. They're all just the same.
That's a concern.
Yeah.
That was my only concern,
Sure.
because quite frankly, you're doing a beautiful job over there, and we're delighted you're being so successful.
Thank you.
And the fact that you have already passed papers on 90% of Phase 1 is a wonderful thing.
Yep.
If we're going to do these 40Bs, we want them to succeed and not go
Absolutely.
bankrupt like the last couple we
That's not our point.
approved, and we're thrilled.
Yeah, we all are, and I mean, we had a block party last weekend, just as an aside. We invited everybody that has already purchased and those that are purchasing. We had rave comments from the affordable buyers, and they were very humble and very thankful. The process is extremely long and extremely difficult for affordable buyers now with the new banking laws, and we're excited that we can build units and actually convey them. So, I think we're on board with meeting exactly what we had said. This is really about the market rate units, that we talked about last time we were in here, having some flexibility to retire some plans that we just missed the boat on altogether. We don't have any older buyers coming for us, coming to us. We don't have anybody requesting a home on one level. And, we provided for that during the process for market rate buyers, and we just have none. So, we have 4 units that are just stale and nobody asks about.
Do you have
All
a
right.
high usage of the one, of master bedrooms on the first floor? Just
We do.
Wait a minute, let's get back to,
Sure.
back to why they're here. From what I understand and what you've said and what's written here, because of your ability to obtain building permits.
Correct.
Roland, do you have comments on that, or?
Yeah, I do. The
So
first step-
we understand what is being presented, what we're being asked, rather than, okay.
The first step in my plan review is to review the matrix, and I have a lot of matrix. I have old matrix, I have new matrix, and I don't throw them away because I write notes on all my matrix to try to keep track of the affordables and the markets and what we're doing. So the first step I do is I take my latest version, I look at it, and I take Foxglove Farmhouse, and if I don't find it, I reject it. So I didn't find it. The latest and greatest, and Bill was in my office this morning.
Yep.
Mark has sent an updated matrix, and I reviewed it, and I found that I can now issue, and if that's the correct matrix, which I don't know, I can now issue 3 chamomile.
Which one's 3 chamomile? I don't know I know by lot numbers, not by. Yeah, I know.
The difficulty here is that I'm issuing a Foxglove Farmhouse, which I still don't find on the list.
There's a Foxglove.
Right.
And we initially had, if I'm not mistaken, a Foxglove Cottage, which was on the list, but now I can't find it again.
I'm sorry.
So it's so confusing for me. But 3 chamomile, as far as I can tell from the latest list I received from the applicant, I can issue the permit.
But we don't have a chamomile on this matrix.
Right.
No, chamomile's location.
That's street.
You have lot numbers. That's why when he said 3 chamomile, I said, I don't know what you're referring to, because I don't do street numbers, I do lots.
3
I've always done
chamomile is
everything.
a Foxglove Farmhouse.
That's
Okay.
So 40,
Hey, go ahead, please, one at a time, Roland speaking.
Now, it's got a garage under, which I understand now that I look at the new matrix is allowed. But when I went to the 7 chamomile, which is right up the street, and it's a Foxglove Farmhouse, which I can't find, it's on a slab, and which tells me there's no garage underneath.
but the way the permit was written, the permit allows, and I've read it the last couple of days, so I kind of be a little bit informed here. It allows us to either use slabs, to use full foundations, or to use undercar garages. It's on the matrix that's recorded in the Registry of Deeds. And in the original designation, it allows either slabs, either full basements, or undercar garages, depending on the topography. So, on lot 40, as an example, on lot number 50, I think, which was what you were just referring to,
Lot 50 and 48.
50 and 48 are both undercar garages. I mean, they're 10 feet below grade. It would be virtually impossible for us to put an attached garage on the sides of those buildings. So it's really, looking back, I don't know, there are certain parts of the permit that are, allow clarity, and there are certain parts of the permit that I don't necessarily understand why we got into. I do understand that the purpose of our discussion of foundations back 2 years ago was to not slight the affordable buyers. In other words, so that we just didn't put slab on grades for every affordable buyer, and we put full garage, full basements, or attached garages for everybody that was a market rate unit. We solved that problem up front just by blasting everything. We spent $500,000 blasting every single foundation in there, so that everybody was equal. And in the way the law is written, I believe, is that you can't tell the difference as you drive down the street between an affordable unit and a market rate. And I would dare you to come into the project and tell me who's affordable and who isn't, because they are all the same.
So again, the issue comes down to, Roland, you're receiving plans with one label to them, and it doesn't, the model type does not appear on the list that was part of the comprehensive permit.
I'll give you another example. On this latest list that Mark gave us,
43.
We have 30...
There's a north one.
30 Bartlett is Northwood, and that's the first time I've heard of it, and I've
Yeah.
never seen it.
That was-
I didn't find it on your list that you sent me, but
Nope, you're
then, just tonight, Michelle gave it to me, and I see it here. So I don't know where these lists are coming from.
Now, are these new models that are coming up, or just rename of models that were there before?
Yeah, the Foxglove Farmhouse you've issued permits for throughout Phase 1.
Yeah,
Yeah, so, I mean, it's, I just think it would be, we'd like to retire 4 units.
Yeah.
We talked about that last time we were here. We'd like to introduce 5 units that are more in concert with what people are buying. We'd like to confirm the existing units that you approved at the very beginning of time can either have full basements, attached garage, I'm sorry, all of them have full basements. So they can either have attached garages or undercar garages. It shouldn't matter, because it does not affect the affordable units at all. It only affects the market rate. And if the topography doesn't allow an attached garage, but it allows an undercar garage, I don't understand the difference if it's a garage under or if it's an attached garage.
I don't think the issue is,
Okay.
correct me, Roland, if
Yes.
I'm wrong, but I don't think the issue is whether it's attached garage, detached garage, right beside or underneath. The question is, or the issue is, that there were models that were on the list that Jeff and Alan spent a lot of time with the developer on this prior to the comprehensive permit being written. Now there are models that are houses showing up that weren't on the list. And one of them was the Foxglove Farmhouse rather than the Foxglove. I mean, is that just a different variation?
It's a variation. There are 3 pesto variations.
And then you get the Northwood, which doesn't
The
appear...
Northlight would be a new model, and that's why we're here tonight.
Did you bring
Yeah, I
brought
brought plans, of course I did. Yeah, I brought plans of,
Right.
you're welcome to
All
look
right,
at them. of the
Alan, I got a question for Alan and Jeff. When you met before, did you see different versions of, say, a Foxglove Cottage, Foxglove Farmhouse? Or...
I don't know, is that referred to the garage? I mean, one's an undercar garage, one isn't.
The pesto, as an example, has 3 different versions.
We did
There's
see,
variations
we did
of
see
every-
some, we did see some of that. I think our concern was garages, and you're providing garages.
We are.
Which allayed our concerns. And as I understand it, and I'm looking at this, that the parameters we put down for the affordables aren't changing in this, where you're just introducing some new models.
Correct.
And you're asking for some flexibility on whether it's an undercar garage or an attached garage.
Exactly,
Are
based
you-
upon topography.
Are the new models larger?
No, the new models fall well within, our largest unit is the Aurora that was originally provided. It's 2,350 square feet without a finished basement or without a finished attic.
I see, and
Yeah,
all the
it's
new
not larger.
models are less or equal to that?
They are, the Valley Kiss has a first floor master. We only had 2 units with a first floor master originally, and that, they don't necessarily hit every part of our demographics. So that's the reason. The other 4 are more colonial. One of the things that we're trying to really honestly not do is build out the entire project with Foxglove Farmhouse and Foxglove Cottages, because there's a huge run on those 2 styles that were originally iterations of what was approved, and we're trying not to have the entire project look like it's one set of buildings throughout the whole property, because, we just didn't have something that meets those criteria that people are choosing from.
Okay, so on here,
Yes, sir.
you're asking us to allow to retire plans for the Cupcake, Biscotti, Shortcake, and Laughing Tiger,
That's correct.
and to introduce a substitute, Willow, Twiggy, Sam Adams, Valley Kiss, Northlight, and the Opal.
That's correct.
But as Roland just mentioned, there's also now a Northwood.
No, Northlight, that's in that
Oh,
package.
Northlight.
Yes, sir.
You have 6 here. You have Northlight, Twiggy, Willow, Opal, Adam, and Valley Kiss.
That's these. these
So
are-
that's 6.
Yeah,
One,
six.
I'd say 5.
3, 4, 5, 6 that have been around.
6. My math's not good tonight.
So this is,
And you're saying that the sizes and the layouts and everything else are basically the same as the ones that are being taken out?
As the ones that were existing building, the ones that we're taking out,
Yeah.
majority of the ones we're taking out were ranches.
Yep. Now, again, it's been pointed out there's a Foxglove Farmhouse. Is that-
Firestone Farmhouse has already been permitted. It's an iteration of the Foxglove Cottage.
All right, so that's not a question, or is that a question, Roland?
Now,
What's an iteration mean?
I thought it was close enough,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Roland.
I thought it was close enough in design where it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Now, when I look at this garage underneath and it's supposed to be on a slab, then it caused me heartburn, and I need direction from the board as
So
to...
should
So
we-
you're saying the
should-
original
wait,
Foxglove.
should we add that to the list then?
I'll add it to the list, or what I think what Mark is saying is that he has the flexibility for me to ignore the slab, and he has the flexibility to put the garage under.
I think our attitude about the slab was only if it has a garage, an attached garage. We didn't want no basement, no garage.
Yep, that's correct.
So I feel comfortable now, listening to this,
Yeah.
that I can relax what
Yes.
I'm doing here as I review these, as long as my foxgloves
Yeah.
look very
Yeah,
similar
there's
in
the same
design,
Okay.
then I don't care what you call it, cottage, farmhouse. That's the way I began
What's the difference between
this.
a cottage and a farmhouse?
Very little.
Is the front porch or something?
Cheryl, you should know real estate speak.
Yeah, I do.
It's all-
I'm
it's all-
assuming, the farmhouse means it
Foxglove
has a front
Farmhouse has
porch.
a two-car garage. Foxglove Cottage has a one-car garage. The kitchen in the Foxglove Cottage is in the back of the house, the kitchen in the Foxglove Farmhouse is in the front of the house. It really, we have the United Nations buying from us, and a lot of them have very unique religious requirements that we try to meet by moving things around internally to meet whatever of their needs are. So,
Okay,
That's lovely.
it is lovely. I mean, there's nothing stale about this project. Nothing. Nothing at all.
all right, Mark, do you have any questions, comments?
No.
Alan?
So I just, the question is that, so all the affordables that we talked about in all our discussions have already been built and they're done?
The first 6 affordables have been built in Phase 1. Yes, sir. And they are done. 3 of them have closed. 3 of them are tuned to be closed as long as their financing goes together in the next 4 to 6 weeks. In the second phase, we've started to pull permits for the affordables.
How many there?
And we build them about 1 every 4. So for every 3 market rate units, we generally try to pull out an affordable. We will do our affordable pool in the spring because we found from experience that that's the best time, to do it for folks moving into town. My understanding is that they have more applicants or a pool larger than the number of units that we have available. Again, so that's, again, a good thing.
So how many more units in phase 2 that are affordable?
8.
8.
There are 8 in Phase 2. Yep. And there were some that was specified during the discussion, the original discussions, like I said, about Lot 27 for accessibility and style, which we have pulled the permit for them based upon the direction was provided us.
So the styles that we had decided, that we had all agreed on, that
They're all in there.
are all going to stay the same? Or
All
some
stay
of
the
these
same.
So none of these are being affected by this?
None of them
at
are
all?
being affected at all. The most the most sought-after unit is the Foxglove. It just is, it's a nice, small starter home. It works well for the people that don't have children, that have small children, or that are aging. I mean, it works. Our model, should you like to come up and see it, is a Foxglove cottage. It's the most sought-after both market rate, and it's the most sought-after affordable unit that we have.
Alan, anything else?
I'm good.
Rod?
The fact that the affordables aren't changing and the lots are not really changing in size or location, I don't see why we should care what style house goes on the lot.
We just don't want a bigger one.
And I think all those plans are definitely in keeping with.
Yeah, they're right in the middle with, We're not building booming houses, that's the guy next door, we're all set.
Do you have anything else?
No.
I would take a moment to thank Roland for being our watchdog.
Oh, yeah.
And tell him how much we appreciate the fact that you're keeping a close enough eye on this to want to bring it to our attention.
Shelley.
And thank you,
I
Shelley.
don't want to throw her under the bus, the watchdog is right here.
Thank you, Shelley.
It very nicely reminds us when we have to pull permits for our affordables. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
then, do you have anything else to add? All right. So it looks like that what they're asking of this board to approve to retire certain plans and to substitute and introduce other plans as stated in here, so that Roland can comfortably issue a building permit for such new plans. Therefore, I will accept the motion.
I just don't know what to say, I'll make it. I make a motion that we accept the retirement of certain plans as noted. As noted, you want me to say them all?
Go ahead.
The cupcake, the biscotti, the shortcake, and the laughing tiger. And that we allow you to substitute the following plans: the willow, the twiggy, Sam Adams, does it come with a cake? Sorry, don't put that in, please. Volley Kiss, Northlight, and Opal.
You don't need to add Fox Club, Farmhouse, and Fox Club.
No.
And do we want to specify that indeed we accept Mark's definition that it can be a slab, it can have a garage under, it can have a garage beside?
No, let's just leave the models.
Okay,
Okay.
There's no slabs.
oh, okay.
Do I have a second? Alan?
Second.
Any discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
You have it.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bill,
Thank you.
I got a decision on this since there was a discussion.
It was a pleasure. Yeah, right.
No, I don't think so.
This wouldn't be recorded or anything.
No. Oh, yeah, the charter share, we'll get back and everything else, and if so, you would take care of it?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right.
Matrix electronically?
We don't have to make a separate decision, do we?
No, but you gotta make sure that can be recorded.
Yeah, if we have to record it, yes, but otherwise.
Do we record it?
Well, part of the 40B. All right. You want to get back to minutes, or do you want to hold those off until next month?
Let's hold the minutes off till next month.
Okay, the other
Let's deal
two.
with this poor gentleman.
He's hanging around, he loves the party. I gotta wait for Jeff to come back.
Can I have that packet of house plans?
She wants the packet of the house plans back.
We went that way.
Well, the house plans, they went that way, set them
No,
down here
the
for
old
you.
house plans, there was a big,
The big packet that I handed you to look at.
Yeah, that's it right there.
They also had those papers on top of it. Those,
No, that was part of the handout.
yeah, those. And then there was the clip.
He offers too many models. He offers too many models. Oh, I know.
Okay, back to 40 Powers Road. We've had the presentation, we closed the hearing, time for deliberation. Comments? Rod?
The fact that, the fact that that's a two-family, if it was sitting in this front lot right by the street, small lot, I'd have an issue with it. But where it's positioned, the size of the lot and everything, I don't, whether you want to say it's in keeping with the neighborhood, it's certainly not, I don't think, detrimental to the neighborhood.
Jeff?
I support a two-family.
Cheryl?
I'm going to say yes to it, but I have a headache about it because I want us to be careful. And the only reason I can see for doing it this way and figure out for doing it this way instead of doing it as an accessory dwelling for a dependent is monetary, is that it will have increased value in the future. And that doesn't seem to be a good reason for granting this unless it is indeed in confirmation with the character and type of residences in the immediate neighborhood. So I just have heartburn over this. I'm gonna accept the fact that this is an exception because it's not very visible from the road. It's a 4-acre lot. It has, it has lots of space and room. But to allow a two-family in a single-family neighborhood simply so that it can be worth more in the future or generate income in the future doesn't seem like a good, viable reason to me. I just have heartburn on it.
But the fact that it generates income is not a reason to deny it.
No,
The
but the
landowner
only
has the
reason,
right.
my problem with this is an area, this is not next to the village common where Jeff's house is. This is not an area where there's duplexes next door or other houses that are, or apartment buildings next door, or an area where we have, multifamily houses. This is an area of single-family houses.
Yeah. And it's set back substantially. Like I said, if it was in that front lot, I'd have more problem with it.
I know, I understand, I hear what
think
you're saying, and that's why I'm gonna go along with it and vote for it. But, but I just I still have heartburn over the only reason that it's not being done as an accessory dwelling, which he is the poster child for, is because then it will be more valuable in the future, it can be rented out and generate income. I mean, that's,
I
You
don't,
can't own an accessory dwelling.
I don't think.
no, that's why he doesn't want accessory dwelling.
I don't think that should be part of your consideration, because it wasn't presented that way by the applicant. Roland gave a hypothetical, and I would say, in my experience, I was always penalized for having a two-family. In Littleton, two families are not valued by any, and that's one reason why I converted it back. So I don't think I can understand your, your concern with that, but that was a hypothetical, and I think that it's mainly comes down to the character of the structure in relationship to the neighborhood, which...
It's hard. I have an example in my neighborhood
Right, well-
of a two-family that is the only two-family in an area of single-family homes. We refer to it as the frat house. It's rented out. There are young men coming and going and partying and drinking in the front yard and making all kinds of noise that is totally out of character with our little single-family, quiet neighborhood. And it is not in keeping, it is a grandfathered two-family. It's been there a long time. It was not a conversion. It was built as a two-family. It's a grandfathered two-family. It is not in keeping with our neighborhood. So I worry about having that as an example with rental income and it being rented out the way it is and how it affects our neighborhood. I worry about doing that to other neighborhoods. We don't know, someday if they're gone, who's his son going to rent to? It becomes a different character. And there are, I'm not complaining about that two-family. It was there when I bought my house. So I knew about it. I have no right to complain about it. It's like buying next door to industrial land.
All right,
You have a right on
let's
that.
get back to the situation in hand and everything else. Alan?
I'm not voting on this, so I don't know if I should be contributing to it.
Okay. Mark?
I'm,
But Alan, you can have a question or comment if you want.
Yeah, well, as I said before, I've been up on the property, I like the scale of it. There's plenty of room up there, and it's built in such a way to be able to handle this without it looking like it's, square peg in a round hole. I think it would fit up there. And I think the intention seems noble and reasonable. And so were I voting, I would certainly support it. And it's also got its own integrity with the trees up there and just the way it's all laid out. So I think it would work, and I think it makes sense, and I applaud what he's trying to do.
Mark?
Thanks to our discussion and clarifying in my mind, what they're trying to do and what an accessory dwelling would do and what a two-family. I can see how a two-family would be better for what they're trying to do. Because obviously an accessory ties the two units together, whereas having a two-family, it doesn't tie them together. What goes in one is separate than the other. And that's what I anticipate, or that's what I think they anticipate happening, is that their son with his caregivers will occupy this unit and the other unit, and there is a financial part of this, I guess, from what I understood, is that, okay, now I can rent it out such that the income will allow their son and his caretakers to stay there. So there's lots of good reasons for it. I know what unit Cheryl's talking about, and you do have to be careful about turning it into a frat house, multifamily type situation, rental situation. This is a little bit different because it's obviously, a larger parcel of land. It's fairly hidden from the neighbors. It's two very large units. The ones you're talking about are tiny, which would be more suitable to, individuals wanting to rent it out.
Yeah, like I said, I'll vote for
Yeah.
it.
So, for those reasons, after much discussion and thought, yeah, it sounds like, I would support the applicant on this.
I think Alan and Mark, and, the comments you just made, were very valuable.
Well, they are.
And I think they're very appropriate and everything else. You got to be careful, and I'll say this to the board for future reference, for future cases coming up. Be careful you don't get to the snobbishness of trying to classify single-family, two-family, multi-family, or whatever else. I know of a single-family home that is more of a frat house than I'll bet you anything your two-family is.
Oh, I don't know, you gotta spend a Saturday night near this house.
I spend more than a Saturday night, but, there are places in town, so,
But actually, the other-
there's a stigma, so you gotta stay away from that and everything else. But, I think, I understand the rationale, and I think it's valid. Therefore, no further discussion, can I have a motion?
Do you want to make your last motion?
No. Go ahead.
Make the motion to adjourn.
No, I can't do that either, so.
I move that we, in the matter of request for a special permit at 40 Powers Road for a conversion to a two-family dwelling, that the board grant the special permit. Is that all I need?
That is good.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? None. Done.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And the next step is you can clarify things with Roland.
You don't want to write any...
No?
I don't want to start yet, but what I was going to ask Bill, if it's possible, the forms that have been created, maybe some examples to send to Alan and me, so we'll have them in our files.
Shelley has them. I sent them to Shelley to distribute.
Examples and forms for the special permits and variances.
Oh, the templates?
Yes, and also maybe some
Thank you very
samples that
much.
were filled out, maybe both to Alan and myself.
Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Right.
That way we'll be prepared down the road.
It's not an agenda item and everything else, but, for discussion, well, not discussion, but noting that Rod and Alan have both indicated to the Board of Selectmen that they're willing to be full members of the board. And I think that is a good choice. Mark would have also been, but I understand his limited time that he can spend on it, and
30 hours a week I give to Rotary, the schools, a little track organization, and this, I think is enough.
I think
You're our only
the addition of Rod and Alan
Gotta
to
keep coming.
the addition of Rod and Ellen to the board will be, make the board, act appropriately and, have the same respect that the board has always had.
Now, I saw some emails going back and forth. Sherry said to wait, but do you want to the board vote on it and pass it on to the selectmen so they can meet Monday and vote? Or otherwise, they'll delay another month.
I don't know if we need a recommendation, but I certainly would not hesitate if someone wanted to make the motion, or second, we do send off a recommendation.
I make a motion that we recommend to the Board of Selectmen that Rod Stewart and Alan Bell be appointed full members of the ZBA.
Can I have a second on that?
Second.
Seems you were the only two that could make that.
Well, you could have put,
You could have done it.
Mark,
No, I cannot be able to share. Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Do I have a motion
maybe
to
send that back
adjourn?
to the selectmen.
I make a
Because
motion
they're gonna
we
meet Monday,
adjourn.
and maybe they'll take care of it.
Yes. I know Sherry.
Bill, you want to go out for a drink?
No. Thank you. Who's second?
Second.
Rod?
No, okay, I did.
Mark? Wait a minute. Alan, okay.
Alan,
I'm looking one way, thinking another.
are
Okay.
we off? Are we off?
Shut off the television, please.
Can we turn it off?